What if the voice in your head isn't telling you the truth? You know the one. You blew it. You have no self-control. You should have known better. For many women, these thoughts happen so quickly, we don't even recognize they're there. But today I want to offer you a different response. Not more discipline, not more guilt, just one simple word: curiosity. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Body and Belonging, where we break free from food guilt, calm down the food noise, and rediscover joy at the table. I'm Jamie, a registered dietitian, and each week we explore the deeper reasons why we struggle with food and why we have such a hard time feeling like we belong in our bodies. I blend gentle nutrition with nervous system awareness, and I teach you biblically rooted health principles to move you away from dieting and restriction and into care and nourishment. So grab a seat at the table and let's dive in. This is part 4 of our Body and Belonging reset. And over the past 3 weeks, we've been renewing our minds, reconnecting with our hunger, and practicing presence. Today, we're talking about what might be the most transformational habit of all: replacing criticism with curiosity. Because the questions we ask ourselves determine the answers we'll find. Most of us have an inner food critic. Think about the last time you ate more than you intended. What was your first thought? For many of us, it's immediate. I have no willpower. I'll start over tomorrow. I always do this. These thoughts feel factual, but they're usually interpretations, not necessarily truth. Imagine if a friend came to you after a hard day and said, "I ate more than I planned." Would you respond by saying, "Wow, you really are hopeless"? Of course not. You'd probably ask a question. Were you stressed? Did you miss breakfast? What else is going on? How are you doing? Curiosity creates space where criticism shuts it down. I want you to become an observer of your own thoughts. Not a judge, not a prosecutor, an observer. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" things change when we start to ask, "What happened?" Maybe you skipped breakfast. Maybe you didn't sleep good last night. Maybe you were overwhelmed. Maybe you finally sat down after caring for everybody else all day. Maybe you were simply celebrating a holiday with someone you love. Those answers matter because behaviors make sense in context. So curiosity gives us the context in which we gather data. I want to talk about balance for a moment here. Balance is rarely found standing still. It's really hard to stand still on a slack line or a tightrope. You can actually balance better when moving because you can adjust as you go. And let's apply that to our eating patterns and our habits, because we often think that balance means arriving at some magical place where eating healthy suddenly feels effortless. But that's not real life. Real balance looks like paying attention, adjusting, learning, starting again without shame. It's hard to stay upright when you're perfectly still. But if you're constantly making tiny adjustments, it's not that hard to stay upright. Health works in the same way. So there's a simple practice that has stood the test of time, and that is halfway through your meal, pause, put your fork down, take a slow breath, and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Maybe you're still hungry. Maybe you're comfortably satisfied. Maybe you realize you've barely tasted your food so far because your mind has been someplace else. There isn't a wrong answer. The pause isn't a test, it's an invitation. See, women who learn to be curious around food become more curious everywhere else, because the way we do one thing is often the way we do everything. But therein lies the power. A rising tide lifts all boats. Have you heard that quote? For example, instead of snapping at their kids, they notice they're exhausted. Instead of feeling guilty for resting, they recognize they actually need it. Instead of criticizing themselves after every mistake, they begin asking, "What's God trying to show me here?" Curiosity doesn't lower your standards. It changes the way you grow. So this week, I want you to practice what I call the compassionate pause. Before, during, or after a meal, one a day, not every meal, ask yourself these questions. What am I noticing in my body? What am I feeling emotionally? What do I need right now? Don't rush to fix anything. Just notice. Our verse for today is James 1:19. Everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. This quick to listen, we often apply that to our relationship with other people. So what if this quick to listen and slow to speak also shape the relationship you have with yourself and the way you talk to yourself? What if we became quicker to listen before we rushed to judge? Our bodies are not the enemy. They're part of God's good creation. And learning to listen is an act of care and stewardship. If you've spent years trying to change yourself through shame and criticism, I hope today's episode felt like permission to try a different way. Shame might produce short-term compliance, but curiosity creates lasting transformation. Next episode, we'll wrap up this mini-series by talking about how to build some rhythms that actually last without relying on perfectionism or constantly starting over. I'll see you there. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to try the compassionate pause this week. Then send me a message and tell me what surprised you. Not what's changed, what you noticed, because awareness is where healing begins.